My body knows how to do it.
It's a girl.
As we speak, every second, a woman gives birth somewhere in the world. It may sound ordinary, but for the woman living it, birth is nothing like that.
Welcome to Born to be Wild, the podcast. We call in guests from Portugal and beyond to share real birth stories and lived experiences, and to explore what maternity care really feels like on the ground.
In this podcast, we invite you to listen, question, and sometimes unlearn what pregnancy, birth, and postpartum are supposed to look like.
For us, wild means staying connected to yourself, your body, and your choices, even when systems make that difficult.
So let's begin.
You know how it goes with most entrepreneurial projects. They almost always start with a personal pain point, a moment where you look around and think, this shouldn't be this hard, right?
Yes, and for me, that moment, it came during my very first obstetric appointment after finding out I was pregnant. And so I remember that very well. We walked in with my husband, and I had millions of questions. And also, to be honest, I felt quite vulnerable at that time. And so it was such a bad experience for me, and we walked out feeling more lost than when we arrived. And I remember this experience so well, it shook me. And this is when I realized how important is a team that will surround you during the pregnancy, because it really shapes the entire experience of becoming a mom. And when I couldn't find the tools I needed, I did what, I guess all entrepreneurs do. If it doesn't exist, then just build it.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about today because what started as a personal search for answers has grown into something much, much bigger, I can say. A community, an Instagram platform to share awareness, interviews through this podcast, activism alongside Portuguese associations, and now the website hosting the directory.
Yay! So here we are. And I counted, and it's actually almost 9 months of development of this website. And the timing feels intentional. So, yes, I'm launching the website that will host the very first directory in Portugal of more than 200 trusted practitioners, built on real recommendations from moms. And my objective is that no mother ever has to walk out of an appointment feeling the way I did. So today's episode is more personal, and it's a story of where all of this began.
Yeah, let's go.
And I understood what was a good care, because this obstetrician, she asked so many questions. She asked how I was doing.
So, Aviva, today is a very special day because today Born to be Wild is launching something we actually needed when we were pregnant and postpartum in Portugal. And I actually don't want to give away too much. So, let's start with a question that every pregnant woman in Portugal has asked herself at some point. So, the question is, where do I even begin?
Hi, Erin. And that's actually a great question. For maybe my personal quick story, when I found out I was pregnant, it was just a few weeks before, like after I landed in Portugal. And
Wow.
just like the news itself was already really big for me. It was a lot to process. And I also felt completely lost because I didn't know the system. I didn't understand it. I didn't know where to start. And so I guess I did what most of the people would do. I Googled. And my first instinct was to find someone who spoke French, an obstetrician. And so really booked the first gynecologist I could find and who was available, because that's the sort of thing, like
Yeah.
finding people that are available like in the next 2 weeks and not in
Yeah.
16 weeks. It can already be a challenge. And so that appointment, that first appointment, and I can tell it now, it was really one of the worst medical experience I had in my life.
Oh, oh no.
That doctor, she never asked whether this was a planned pregnancy, whether I wanted to continue. And it's important for me because, and that might be for another podcast episode, but at that point, I didn't know. I was not sure yet. I wanted the baby. And so, but I was expected those questions, but I had none. And she was super
Yeah.
cool, super mechanical. So here are your next appointments. Here are your tests. See you next time. So I didn't have a chance to ask any question, and I had, of course, millions, like every first time pregnant woman.
Yeah.
So I just walked out this set office, and I wanted to cry, and I was even more lost than I was when I walked in. So, at some point I thought, okay, there has to be a better way. I need to find a solution to experience this beginning of a pregnancy in a better way.
Yeah, because I can imagine it must have been so freaking hard to be in a foreign country. Just what you said, like right after you have arrived, not speaking the language properly, as a first time pregnant mom to be, maybe, you don't know yet. Yeah, now I'm curious. Tell us, how did it go from there after that first appointment?
So after that first really bad appointment at the beginning of my pregnancy, I think I was maybe 6 weeks pregnant. I started talking to a few friends who were already settled in Portugal, in Lisbon. And they really gave me the best advice I received during, I think, this beginning of the pregnancy. They told me, go and meet with our doula. And at that time, I didn't know what a doula was doing. It was pretty limited my knowledge. I really, for me, I thought she would mainly help us navigate through the Portuguese system, find the right contacts, and really bridge that gap. And this is what we really needed at the beginning. But of course, she did all of that, but she did much more than this. And I think for every woman listening that also had the guidance of a doula, you know how valuable she can be in
Yeah,
terms of knowledge, getting to know your pregnant body and getting ready for the birth itself. But for us, of course, she was much more than a fixer. And so through her, I found an obstetrician who completely changed my experience. And, I just want to take a moment here to talk about why I think this second obstetrician was truly exceptional. Because now I realize, speaking with my other friends and other moms, how finding someone like her is actually quite rare. From the very first appointment, she would embody everything you want from a care provider. She was listening, like really listening. She was super warm, super kind, and she never
mm,
made me feel rushed neither. Like really, she would take the time to answer every single of my question.
that's perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's this kind of practitioner that is always late to the appointment, but I get why. Like, because she would just make sure you would never leave the office with more questions.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And then what struck me also the most, especially in Portugal, because I know it's quite uncommon, is that she was fully supporting me. And she told me, like, I would go with you all the way to 41 weeks plus 5 days if it's needed.
That's
So no
rare indeed
pressure.
in Portugal.
It is because I know so many moms that are pressure even from week 39, and usually 40 weeks is like, okay, let's do it, like let's
Yeah.
start the labor. But no, here it was like no unnecessary intervention. She really trusted the process, trusted my body, and she would tell me that. And I don't know, just the way she would be genuinely enthusiastic about me
Mm,
working with a doula. She really encouraged this, which I think is also not so common.
no.
And I also really appreciate that she kept the vaginal exams to the absolute minimum, because she would tell me, like once will be the D-Day,
Yeah.
intimacy will be something challenging. So I'm not going to do it if it's not really necessary.
Oh, perfect.
So that was, I think, really good from an aubergine. And maybe my favorite part, that's more like an anecdote, but she actually just waved me once at the very beginning. And then after that, every single visit, she would look at me and say, "Oh, Aviva, you are glowing." and I, and I asked her, maybe mid pregnancy, like, "Don't you want to wait me?" And she's like, "No, look at you, you look great." And even though I think I might have taken too much, but before we leave the office, she would always remind me, no worry for the birth. You are made to give birth. You will rock it. So I just feel I wish every pregnant woman could find this type of obstetrician.
Yes, she sounds amazing. Really amazing.
I
Yeah.
realize, okay, that's how it should be, and that's exactly what we deserve when we are pregnant. Not a mechanical follow up, but really someone that cares for you. And
Someone that knows
they
you, right?
exist. Exactly, that knows
Yeah.
you and reassure you and is giving you all the evidence-based information and trusts you for so taking the good decision when when you need to maybe go to choose a path or another. And that was really, really, really good. Um, so that was I would say, the beginning of the journey of me thinking, okay, I just need to be surrounded by the right people. And so through this network, I also got connected with a lactation consultant, with a physiotherapist that will help me before and after the birth for the perineum reeducation. That is very
Good.
important.
Yeah.
I knew, and I think it's something that it really hit me, is that it's not the system that is going to push you all those people. You have to know where to look. And I had the luck to find the right people. And honestly, I also had the means to afford them because
Mhm, mhm.
everything was private. Nothing was covered by the Portuguese
Which
SNS.
is ridiculous, but that's a story. That's a podcast for another time, but yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
It
you were
is. It
very
is.
lucky. Yeah.
I got lucky, but I realized that it's already so overwhelming that there must be ways to support them better.
Yeah, exactly. So you started you started, like, thinking of new options, like how to support other moms as well. So, like, okay, maybe we can now make a bridge to Born to be Wild. What is it, and why is it different from everything else that already exists?
You might know already if you're listening to it. There are a few like good WhatsApp groups, some Portuguese, some more for the expat moms. And there is actually one in particular I want to mention. It's the work of Shona Baker. She made a Facebook group that you might already know. It's called Positive Pregnancy, Birth and Postpartum in Portugal. And it's a very active group with a lot of parents seeking advice. It's really good. And Shona shares a lot of great tips as well. We will actually mention it in the show notes. And I joined, I guess, all of them. And I could see that easily 1 in 4 or 5 messages is someone asking for practitioner recommendation.
Yeah.
And so you have all this precious knowledge that are shared every day, and then it disappears because the threads get buried and the history is lost and the questions come back again. So sometimes some practitioners change, some become unavailable, or they are really hard to get because everyone wants them. So women end up choosing maybe by default, and that's something that I could notice. With my friends and my surroundings, you just find whoever is available. I see that a lot, and often, unfortunately, you have amazing doctors, but you have also mediocre ones,
Yeah.
and this mediocre care, not by choice, but by lack of option, um, I think, okay, there's a gap that can be filled. And so that's exactly what Born to be Wide is here to solve.
Okay.
It's the first directory in Portugal dedicated to perinatal care. And today, we already have over 200 practitioners that are listed. It can be a doula, midwife, obstetrician, lactation consultant, hypnotherapist, perinatal counselors, postpartum support. Really imagine a place where all the perinatality practitioners are listed. And if there is one thing in common with all those people is that they put women at the center. So they
Yeah.
really provide a respectful care for the female body. And it's also based on mom's recommendations only. So those reviews, they are intentionally demanding. and you can see that. So
Mhm.
if you're a mom and you want to recommend someone, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and those questions they are already here to guide you toward what actually matters. So, for example, this practitioner, is he or she a good listener? Were things explained clearly? Was the care individualized? Because at the end, I think a good experience always comes back to listening, kindness, the ability also to truly guide each woman, each parent as an individual.
Wow, and that sounds amazing, Aviva. And I was standing right next to you, and I could see just how much work you've put into this, and how much passion you've poured into creating this platform, really to just support your mission. I can't say it differently. I'm curious though, who would be the practitioner, like the practitioner, to look for at the start of your pregnancy?
So I think it's really to start with finding your key allies that will help you also figure out what you want, what you need for your birth, and who else can be part of your circle. Um, and yeah, of course, then take time to read the reviews because they are really trustworthy. Uh, it's not like, don't start rating or Google reviews,
Mm-hmm.
but the question we ask are specific and intentional. As it really helps to have recommendation where that are practical and that you can really use to determine whether it's the right person for you or not.
Yeah, and it's positive, right? It's not that, indeed, it's not a blacklist. That's not the whole intention of Born to Be Wild. And I think that's really beautiful. And it's also really needed because as a pregnant woman, you read so many like negative stories about giving birth and everything. And that's not what you need. You want to read the positive stories and you want to read like the good, honest reviews. So I totally get it. Hey, and the other day we were having a talk, and something what really stayed with me is that you said birth is not a solo sport. And of course, I totally agree with that. But maybe in the light of Born to Be Wild, yeah, I wanted to highlight that one more time because, um, especially in what you're building right now, what does it actually mean? Birth is not a solo sport.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to look how they do elsewhere because if you like in many Eastern, Asian, or also indigenous communities across Latin America, there's a concept called the golden months. Yeah, for 40 days, the new mother becomes the center of the village. People bring her food, they massage her, they handle the housework, they care for the baby, but they really support the recovery of the mom.
It sounds like
And
heaven. Yeah.
yeah, it is. And she's not expected to do anything except heal and bond with the baby. And that concept exists across so many cultures, and there's a good reason for that. And yet, and I think it's really unfortunate, but in our Western societies, we have lost it almost
Yeah.
entirely. Everything is super individualized, and I really feel mothers are more isolated than ever,
Yeah.
and it can be
Totally
quite
agree.
brutal. So,
Yeah.
um, in many countries, and that's something true for Europe as well, you have midwives that are doing home visits after
Yeah.
birth.
True. It was with my first birth they did that as well. So true. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so important because they come to check your stitches if you have some. They will support you for breastfeeding, or they will really like make sure you're feeling good, your baby is good, you're bonding. They will monitor your recovery. And that's something I found out when I arrived in Portugal is that this care doesn't exist. So what it means that you leave the hospital after what, like 48 hours if you had a
Mhm. Mhm.
vaginal birth, and then you're on your own at home, and your next medical appointment is in 30 days. And so much can happen in those
Yep.
30 days. Like,
Yeah.
and especially if your birth experience was difficult or even traumatic, you really need support.
So a lot of moms simply don't know about it.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't know about it, especially when you're a first-time mom. You don't think of it, and then you experience it, and then with the second, you're like, "Ah, yes, this is what I needed, and this is what I have to get myself to kind of treat myself on, but it's not a treat. It's a necessity.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, and also Aviva, you talked a lot about midwives. We love midwives, of course. They are the foundation of birth care. And on Born to Be Wild, there are many midwives listed. But you were just at the International Confederation of Midwives in Lisbon, ICM, last week. And you told me something happened there. Can you tell us?
So this ICM, it holds every 3 years, and they pick a location somewhere in the world. And last week it was in Lisbon. What a chance! So imagine 3,000 midwives from every continent in one place, and it was just like
Whoa.
5 days of extraordinary level of knowledge, shared research, and really just passion in one room. If you have been working with midwives, you might already know that they are often uh, working and doing their practice in very difficult conditions.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure it's getting better today.
No.
For example, I spent 2 hours and I had lunch with midwives from Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and there they are putting herself at risk, like legal risk. They can potentially face prison because they are helping women access abortion
Oh,
medication.
no.
They will pass it through the Mexican border, and those women, they are it's just like an act of extraordinary devotion and courage, and they are nowhere near as recognized as they deserve to be. That is why I love to interview midwives. I love
Yeah.
to highlight them because I think it's so important, and they are doing the most beautiful job ever. And so at ICM, something happened is that for the very first time in the Congress history, the country hosts, Minister of Health, did not show up for the opening of the ceremony,
That's
and that was in
ridiculous.
Portugal. Yes, it is, and I think that says a lot. Because in Portugal, and we talked about it before, there is no midwifery body. They fall under the nursing profession. So officially, they are specialized nurses. We can call them parteira, but that's
Yeah,
quite informal.
infinitus potatoes. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, and so they are not. They don't have a political voice. They are not protected enough. And thankfully, there is APO, this association that fights for their rights. But the gap is still enormous. And so what do I take from this event? I think, and what I want to share so to everyone listening is trust your midwives and
Yeah.
seek them out really, because when you give birth in a hospital, you can still look for them. You can ask for
Yeah.
who are the midwives, because if you do so, you also acknowledge their work, you acknowledge their importance. And maybe if you had a beautiful birth experience, thanks to the midwives, you can write to the hospital and say so. Because right now, parents advocating for midwives is one of the most powerful thing we can do at an individual level. So that would really resonate with you. I would recommend to, yes, to just do it with the intention, and that it's an incredible way to support their practice.
Yeah, and also the recognition of the profession because that's really needed. In Portugal, they need to study 4 years to be a nurse and then another 2 years to be a midwife. And that
Exactly.
is that is sometimes wow, that also requires a lot from your personal life, especially in a phase of your life that you might want to build a family. You have to be on call 24/7 sometimes. You work night shifts, it's hard work, it's physical work. So yeah, let's recognize these midwives. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Hey, and we're going towards the end of this special edition of the podcast. If a woman is like listening right now, she doesn't know where to start. She wants to like see which recommendations she can get for like birth professionals. What is the one thing she can do today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would really say that the number one thing is to find your birth ally. And it can be a midwife, but it can also be a doula, it can be an obstetrician. Just find that one person that you really feel confident with, and you know that they're aligned with your values, they're aligned with your birth plan, and it's someone your instincts really tell you that that's the right for you. Trust that feeling. I think it's really the starting point
Yeah.
of your pregnancy journey. And then the second thing is to educate yourself. You can listen to podcasts, to our podcast, of course, because to listen to real birth stories, I think it's a great place to begin. I would also recommend another podcast that I love. It's called The Great Birth Rebellion
Yeah.
from Melanie Jackson. She's an Australian
Yeah.
midwife, and she does such a good job in explaining, how to advocate for yourself, all the information that I think are so valuable when you're pregnant. And so, yes, that's a good starting point. Then you can seek out for childbirth preparation classes, and not necessarily the one that the hospital offer, because I think from what I heard, the quality is not always the best. It can be
No.
quite different from a place to another. So yeah, just again, you can look for recommendation from other moms to get ready for the birth. And I think it's about, for me, it was being empowered. And so not just having people telling me what to do, but feeling empowered and say, okay, that's what the medical is recommending. And this is a decision I take because also I don't like frustration. And so, yeah, it's being empowered in your decision. I
Yeah.
think we are not,
I think that's a
child
very
anymore.
valuable insight. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, my really last recommendation would be don't forget about the
No.
postpartum.
No.
Um,
No, that's a really
y-
good one. Yeah.
yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah.
prepare for it, though.
Yeah, it's hard because especially if you're a first time mom, you don't know. And you tend to focus a lot, we say it again before, but on the pregnancy and birth. And I understand because it's a lot to take. It's a lot of information to take. And we tend to, yeah, say, okay, then let's see how that goes after the baby is here.
Yeah.
But I think that there are a few things you can do to get ready. And we talked a lot about the village, but yes, making sure that you know before what are the key people that would be here for you. And I really assure you that it's not a luxury to have at least one visit of a midwife at home, just to check stitches and to check also mentally where you are. Maybe she is lactation consultant certified and she can save your breastfeeding journey. So making sure that this village of, maybe, it can be a restricted number of people, but you know that they are here if you need them. You know how to reach out for them. They know when you're giving birth, and they can be very responsive. And I really, really recommend to make sure you have these trustful people, and you can find them now on Born to Be Wild. So there's no
Yeah,
excuse.
that's
Uh,
amazing.
yes, and
Yeah.
so yes, for me, at least it really changed everything. So trust yourself, find your lies, prepare your postpartum village before you think you need it. I think those would be my recommendations.
Thank you so much, Aviva, for telling us all these recommendations, but also building the platform itself. And the good news is today it's going to be launched. July 1st of 2026, Born to Be Wild
Yay!
.pt is finally launched. So thank you, Aviva, also for this talk and also for all the recommendations you already gave to moms, whether you're a first-time mom or what I said, a fifth-time mom. It's amazing the work you're doing with the platform and with Born to Be Wild. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Irene.
Thanks for listening to Born to Be Wild, the podcast. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find us on Instagram at borntobewild.pt and Birth Mode. We would love to hear from you.
All sources and references mentioned in this episode are in the show notes below. And if you enjoy this episode, of course, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. It's really the best way to help us grow. See you next time!